This is my project over the last few winters. We got this on a trailer, motor out of it, and we started tearing it apart. But before we started tearing it apart, I took a few pictures just to remember how to put things back together. We tore it down, basically, to the frame and started over. Sandblasted it, got it ready for paint and primer, tore just about every bolt and nut off of it, tore the rear end out of it, started over. Sandblasted and cleaned up the transmission, got a lot of things ready to go, and then we moved inside the shop with a friend of mine that also works at the campground. Him and I do this in the winter just for a little bit of something to do and a little extra money. We started replacing seals. We painted and primered all the pieces individually. He started working on the body work. You can see the big rust holes in it. He's a great body and paint guy, and I do a lot of the mechanical stuff. We set the frame together, got the wheels and stuff back on, put the motor in it, hooked up the transmission. We were told the motor was completely re-overhauled before we got it, and we're doing this for a gentleman that we know. So we started hooking everything up to get it to run, and everything was going really well, and then we started it up and got it running, and it ran for a few minutes just like no problem. And as you can see at the end of this video, it comes to an abrupt stop. Well, at the abrupt stop, we found out that the gentleman who had rebuilt the motor for this project was not very mechanically inclined and did not build the motor out correctly, and forgot to put a couple plugs back in that for the oil suction and so forth, and basically seized the motor. So we tore it down, took it to a machine shop, and had it redone, which took quite a while. And here it is. We brought it back, and because he wanted the car yellow, we went ahead and repainted the motor, and we reassembled it from scratch, putting every piece together inside that motor. And it took us a while to figure out what had gone wrong, but we did finally get it, and we put it back in the frame, started reassembling. Learning how to time one of these old motors was pretty interesting. And we got it to run, and we had little issues and stuff with it. Found out the plugs were missing for the oil pressure. Had to tear it part way down, rebuild it again, put the plugs in it, and redo a couple things on that, and eventually it finally was all together. Oil pressure was, we rolled it over a few times, got the oil pressure going, we got it to run. Had to rebuild the carburetor because it was messed up and it would overflow the fuel all the time. Found out a secret with the oil pump, or the fuel pump, that you need a spacer in it so that it doesn't pump too high a pressure and actually blow out the carburetor. But as you can see here, with some help with a couple other friends, we did get the thing to run very efficiently and very smoothly for a 1949 flathead 4. And as you can see, we added an oil pressure gauge just to make sure we were keeping oil pressure so we didn't burn up the motor once again. So then came the rest of the project. Hooking everything back up, new brake lines, new gas lines, new brakes, new brake cylinders, pretty much replaced just about everything. Then we started putting the body on. The boss had been working on the body, and he'd gotten most of it finished and primered and painted. Then we put it all together. Then we started the wiring, had the seats reupholstered, got it all together and got it running good. Then had to adjust everything so that it would drive. It was a lot of fun. Did a lot of wiring, putting in new carpet in it, the new seats, wiring up the taillights. They were original taillights, but we converted everything to 12 volts, so we had to do a little bit of modifications. But after all that, we took it out and drove it around the yard once. And the gentleman had shown up to pick up the car because it was on its way to Florida. And as you can see, the trailer sits there and he's ready to go. It was an awesome build out. Here it is, loaded up, ready for its trip to Florida. It was covered up and shipped to Florida. It was a pretty interesting project. I hope you enjoy this little video, and thank you.